Welcome. You are at the WOW, the Wisdom on Wheels virtual meetup. And today is our day number, I don't know, maybe 8. I think it's day number 8. So this event is for mature women who are exploring or living van life, full-time or part-time. And if you're watching on YouTube, I invite you to sign up to attend this event live on Zoom because it's more fun. And you'll find the link right below this video. And every day there's a prize for the woman, all the women who did the action step from the previous call. And so you will find that link to claim your prize in the email reminder that comes 30 minutes before this call if you're signed up. And let me just pop in the chat here the link to our Facebook group, because that's where you do the homework. Here you go. If you're not in there, come on in there, because there's lots of fun happening in the Facebook group as we acknowledge each speaker and share other stuff. And there is a prize. So the prize today for everybody who commented, made an acknowledgement for Debbie Jean, who was last Thursday, and then made comments on 2 other women's posts, is the how to plan your first online product. It's teaching you a process that I created called the 7 Sacred Keys. And so that's what everybody gets today as the prize. Now, for those of you who are in the inner circle, you have been patiently, or maybe not so patiently, waiting for us. So we've got an email that's coming out to you today, giving you access to the recordings, the vault, the WOW vault, and some other cool stuff. And if you don't see it, it hasn't come out yet, but sometime this afternoon it'll come out. So if you don't get it by the end of today, look in your promotions or your spam folder. Sometimes things go into there, and just reply to any of my emails if you still don't see it, and I will get that to you. No, hope it is not too late to join the inner circle. Let me get you the link to that. The link to the inner circle, let me pop it in the chat, is right there. And so just some of this cool stuff, because I was working on it a lot today. You get a month free, or actually you get 50% off plus a month free in the WOW Sisterhood, which is starting in June. You get a one-on-one roadmap call with me. You get the exclusive personal power workshop with Ellen Vig. You get an exclusive workshop on planning your rig, like layout and stuff, right, Joni? With Joni. And you get a Wisdom Within workshop with me, and you get a treasure map workshop with me. There's a whole bunch of cool stuff that you get. And so you are so lucky to be back with Joni today. Joni is a full-time van lifer. She is a strong advocate for women, and she helps women get on the road. And in Joni's words, she says, I think van life is an excellent way to live out our later years. The freedom to explore and not answer to anyone else after taking care of everyone all those years. But it can be intimidating. So she helps women figure it out. Now, Joni knows a lot about boondocking and about finding wonderful camping spots, overnighting spots like the one she is in right now. So, Joni, thank you so much for coming back. Joni saved me. Our very first call, the speaker dropped out just 2 days before we started. And I thought, what am I going to do? And I immediately thought of Joni and reached out and said, is there any possible way that you could teach this first call? And Joni said yes, and it was fabulous. If you haven't seen it, I recommend you go back and watch it, because it is like a van life 101. She covered so many topics on there. It was just great. And Joni, let me turn it over to you. I was going to ask you, shall we ask people a question, or do you want to start first? You know that I'm going to, ask questions right and left, but how do you want to start here?
Yeah, why don't we just see where everyone is? Have you boondocked? Is that something, boondocking can be very intimidating because it's the Wild West, and it literally is like the Wild West, and I'll show you why in a minute.
But let's define boondocking first.
I will.
Because somewhere where I've been, there has been a difference of opinion of what it exactly is.
Yes. Okay. So boondocking is so I'm kind of a stickler, a definition stickler. And so boondocking is camping on public lands for free. There's no services, there's no stress at all. And it's usually mostly BLM, which is the Bureau of Land Management, and United States Forest Service, USFS. So it's the boon. That's where that word came from. So there's so as far as free camping, there's boondocking, which is basically camping in the boonies. There's lot docking, which I consider overnighting, which means that you're camping in a parking lot. And there is mooch docking, which is a tongue-in-cheek term for staying in a friend's or family's driveway. So boondocking is public land, finding a spot. There's usually a fire ring, and that's about it.
Okay, that's great. Now that we've got the definition, and we're going to go with Joni's definition for this call, please share in the chat if you've ever boondocked before. You can just say yes or no. And I have to say, I have. I'm proud to say. My second night out, I boondocked on BLM land.
Right. So we've got,
You have got a prime audience.
yes, we've got a lot of newbies.
Non-boondock.
This is great.
Yes.
Ladies. So let me launch into this. So I remember I first started van life and my very first boondocking experience. I wondered if it was legit. I had found a spot on Campendium, which is an app for finding used to use. Um, and I just remember thinking, gosh, is a group of cowboys going to show up with rifles drawn? Because next to a corral outside of John Day National Monument. And I'm going to show you just the picture real quick of where I was. This is where I was. And so that's my first boondocking night. Look how beautiful, though. And one of the love about boondocking is that there's almost always nobody else around. Unless you're like in Quartzsite. So, if you've been to Quartzsite, you know that that's almost all boondocking. But me being nervous that first night, I mean, it just seemed a little sketch, but it wasn't. It was really just my newbie nerves. I almost exclusively boondock, and I far prefer it to staying in a campground. When I stay in a campground, even what I consider a good campground, like one that gives you a lot of, I just don't like how close I end up being to people I don't know. With boondocking, it would be so weird to be that close to, or like they do in um in campgrounds. And so here is here's the spot I was at the night before I met Natalie in person. And you can just see there's a camper here and a camper here. And that's about as close as I ever am to people I'm not camping with. So, and that again is free boondocking. That's up on Mount Lemon, for you, Natalie. Great place to get away from Tucson heat for sure.
Joni, can I tell a little story about this was in Quartzsite. I was at the RTR, the Rubber Tramp Rendezvous, and I was out on BLM land. And it was a place where other people were boondocking, but they were giving each other a lot of distance, like it was much closer than the picture that Joni just showed, but still a lot of distance. And I woke up in the morning and there were like these 4 vans that were so close to me. They were like surrounding me. And I thought, what the heck? What is this? And when I got out, I realized that they were friends that I had met the day before, and we were talking about getting together and boondocking in the same place. And they found me, and they all pulled in around me after I put up my blinds and went to sleep. And so it was so funny. My reaction was, what? And then it was like,
I
oh,
know, right?
we're here to support.
Yeah, I know. We do get very tutorial very quickly. And rule of thumb with boondocking is that you want to be far enough away that you can't hear the other people, they can't hear you. If there's already, let's say there's already two people camping, then you kind of want to be equidistant from both of them. You don't want to, so when you're filling in space, you don't want to get close to people, which is really different than, like, say, a parking lot. Um, Now, I want to reiterate the difference between over and boondocking. So overnighting is staying in a parking lot, a rest area, or on a city street for one night. When you're overnighting, you get there just before bed and you leave when you get up. And if it's out of business, if you are able to support the business. And I like to make sure for letting our viewers overnight as I check out, just to make sure that they know that they're appreciated, because it can be really hard for those employees, because people can be really rude and make messes that they have to clean and all that stuff. So of course, none of you are going to be those people, but and then um, the main difference is that overnighting, you're not camping, you're just sleeping in your rig for the night. You're not setting up, you're not cooking out in the parking lot or any of that stuff. With boondocking, you can very much set up camp, because most boondocking spots have a 10 to 14 day stay limit. They are they're they're what you're looking. Um, so boondocking is primarily done west of the Rocky Mountains, and you might wonder why, and I'm going to show you, because here's a map of all of the BLM sites in the US.
Oh my
So
gosh.
a parking lot in Washington, D.C., and there's a ranger station in South Florida, and all the rest of them are west of the Rockies.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
a great map.
yep. So, okay, so I'm going to I'll stop that share.
Okay,
Um,
let's pause just for a
yep.
second and ask, what's something you have learned? Something like beneficial or meaningful or like an aha that you've just learned. And I'll share, well, I got a ton of them. Um,
And I'm hoping I don't overwhelm anyone with this presentation.
that's part of
It
the
could
reason
be
I
a
want to
little
stop
heavy
and let people kind of
digest.
I like I'm going to make a list of the kind of like the rules, the etiquette, the boondocking etiquette. And the first one is far enough that you can't hear each other. That was really a good one. And okay, so Hope thought that boondocking and dry camping and overnighting were all the same. And that's what I got when I was having a conversation somewhere on Facebook. Other people said, no, it's dry camping. Any dry camping is boondocking. But according to Joni's definition, it's not. So that's very helpful. Yeah, Peggy says the definitions were helpful. Barb, the BLM is mostly west, staying away from others. Yeah, that's great. And Stellar wants to know what's the difference between the to be BLM and national park land.
Oh, national parks are very, very regulated. There are very few national parks you can boondock. Most camping in national parks is in campgrounds. Um, and you are not allowed to overnight in any parking lot in a national unit. So there's almost 500 national park units throughout the US. So there are national parks, national seashores, national monuments, national historic sites, lots of different in the National Park Service. You can get I think it's a $500 fine if you're caught overnighting in one of the parking lots in a national park unit.
Wow. So what's the difference? So we've got BLM land, National Park land, Forest Service land.
Or
And,
service, yeah.
and it's also like in Arizona, there's state trust land.
The Arizona State Trust is very have a permit and it allows you 14 days annually. So now I don't there's no one actually monitoring how long you stay, on the National Trust land, but that is what the rules are.
Okay.
But but when you think of boondocking, most people are talking about BLM and Forest Service.
Okay.
And there's also national grasslands, and sometimes the wildlife refuges allow you to boondock, but you have to really look at what the rules are there. Um, so why I like, first of all, it's free. There's so much more space. Like I said, most of the time I can't see another camper unless it's a friend I'm camping with. It's adventurous. I love new places. Usually it's very quiet and very dark. And I like feeling like I'm getting away with something and it's totally legit. So my favorite example of this is a boondocking spot just outside of Twin Lakes in Colorado. Um, Boondocking is right next to multi-million-dollar homes, and the boondocking actually has a better view than the multi-million-dollar home. 14-day spot. And it's up where it's cooler, so it's a good summer spot, and it's just amazing. So that's the when I think getting away with something, that's what I really think about is Twin Lakes, Colorado, 14 days at a time.
That is so great. Joni, let's ask folks here on the call, share in the chat, what do you like? What do you like about the idea of boondocking? Like some of the women on this call may be like, I don't think I'm ready for boondocking. But if you feel like even if you're not ready, what is something you like about it? I like everything you said, but I like the dark. I would have to say the dark, to be able to see the night sky, you know, not lights around. I really love that. Let's see what quiet, nature, stars, free, quiet. Yes, free, definitely.
Answer Hope's question. She's asking if you need a permit for BLM. Very, very little of the BLM lands requires a permit. The as I've seen that require a permit is right around Quartzsite, and that's only during the busy season. Usually you just go.
Yeah.
That's the part when you're new, that's the part that feels weird, right? Like, am I really allowed to be here? No one knows I'm here. Is this really okay?
Yeah. Yeah. So folks are appreciating the solitude, the birds, lots of space, um, the quiet and the nature and the feeling of
I mean,
independence. Yeah.
I don't know of any free spots that allow you to stay longer than 14 days. There is the long-term visitor areas around, and those are paid.
Now, Joni, I don't know if it's my internet or yours. I'm hearing you break up now and then. Can you type in the chat? Are you just the word break up if you're hearing that also, or if it's it could definitely be my internet.
Uh-oh.
Okay,
Oh,
so
that's no good.
just like if you could just slow down a little bit, I think
Sure.
I don't know if you can, because I don't know if I could, but then like I mean, it's not totally losing the continuity, but sometimes the key word will be missing, is what I'm experiencing. Yeah.
All right. I do you mind if I answer Stellar's
No,
question?
please go right ahead.
Okay. So Stellar, if I worry about safety if I'm alone, I worry about safety much more when I'm in an urban environment. Um, People in general, criminals are very lazy. They're not going to go 100 miles out in the boonies or even 50 miles out in the boonies to see if they might be a woman who's alone. So if
Do
that
you feel,
helps.
Joni, do you feel any different? Do you feel more or less safe if there is one or two other vehicles, when you're boondocking, or is it irrelevant to you?
I feel less safe when there's one other vehicle. I feel more safe if I feel safest when it's just me or me and my friends. I definitely feel when I'm with friends. If there's two or three, so last night I overnighted in a parking lot at a trailhead, and at first one other van was there, and and that one looked like a nicely built ProMaster. So I'm gonna be a little snobby here now, and then kind of a not so nice van pulled in. And I was really grateful that the other van was there. I don't think I would have felt comfortable with just felt a little sketchier. Um, and then another van pulled in. So there turned out to be four vans. And I definitely felt better having four vans there than like I didn't even get out of my van until yeah, my internet is unstable. I didn't even get out of my van to empty bottles until after there were a couple of vans in the parking lot. So I like so before I launched, I lived alone in a house, college town, with drunk frat boys wandering around. I feel much safer boondocking out in the middle of nowhere than in town, unsafe in town. I just feel safer out in the boondocks than with the stupid drunk frat boys wandering around. If that helps at all. All
Great.
right. Okay, so should I move on?
Yeah, and you want to answer Kelly's question before you jump back in?
Um,
Yeah, let me just read it. Kelly asked, how long have you been on the road? Because we kind of skipped over that part
right.
in the beginning. And have you ever had an incident boondocking?
Okay. Kelly, I have been for almost 8 years. I moved into my van 8 years ago in 3 days. So the no, 4 days, the 24th of May is when I moved into my van. Um, ever had an incident boondocking. Ever. I've never felt the need to, I mean, I always know where my key is and I'm always ready to turn the key and go, but I've never had to. It, and I almost exclusively boondock. Um,
Okay, I think you should go back to your
okay.
curriculum and we can
All
jump
right.
to questions.
Okay.
But
And then we can grab some questions later.
yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Yeah,
So to boondock successfully, you need to understand how to find boondocking spots, what the rules and restrictions are, public lands you'll be visiting. You are responsible for knowing and abiding by any current restrictions, like exactly where you can camp, if you can have a fire in most of the West for most of the snow. Um, and just know that if you're camping in California, most of California requires a fire permit that can be obtained for free at any or online. And I will give Natalie the website for where you can get those permits. Okay, so my favorite so I'm gonna share my while now and then we'll grab questions after I finish this section. Um, okay, so I need to go. Okay, so my favorite app for boondocking is iOverlander. Now 7 years ago when I started using iOverlander, and I jokingly called it, I think you can camp here, but probably not. It was, so it's crowdfunded or crowdsourced information. so many spots that were like someone got away with overnighting there once and they put it on the app. It's much, much, much better now. I started using iOverlander 2, probably 6 months ago. The original iOverlander, I don't think is available anymore. You can use iOverlander 2 for free, but you have to load one section at a time. I'm actually going to be sending them a message saying you gotta lower your pricing because people are just not going to go for dollars a year for 3 states at a time or $100 a year for unlimited. For whatever reason, they gave me a free year of unlimited, uh, possibly because I had been donating for all these years. I don't know. Um, but I do need to get back with them and say, hey, I've been trying it out, and here's what I'm seeing in the face and all that. I still think it's worth it. Freecampsites.net is another place to find free camping. They don't have an app. It's it on your phone on your browser. Other apps that I use for boondocking, but again, probably at least 90% of the time, I'm just using iOverlander. Um, Google Maps and Google Earth can be really good, especially in a place where you've never been before, so that you can see ahead of time what you might be getting into. Avenza Maps is a free mapping program. Gosh, unstable again. A free mapping program where you can buy maps. Also, for free, download the USFS MVUMs. So I'm going to translate that. That is the United Forest Service Motor Vehicle Use Maps. And that's what tells you, and I'm going to show you, that's what shows you where you can boondock. Um, there's also Visitor Map. It's the Forest Service information. It's an app. And then I highly recommend the US public lands. One of the things really important to know when you're boondocking is that you are indeed on public land. US public lands, I don't know how much, maybe around $5 or $6, but it's not $5 or $6 per year. It's just $5 or $6 and you have the app. It's a great app for showing where on public lands or if you're on public lands. I also use, so this is my screen. I also use the Onyx Backcountry. I just started using, I don't love it. And I sometimes, especially in the East, I will use All Trails because I'll do a lot of overnighting at trailheads. Because as someone mentioned in the chat, the East is problematic. But I did manage to visit the East Coast 2 summers in a row and never paid. Okay, so iOverlander, I don't know if you know, but there's iOverlander.com and there's an app. So the app is what they charge for. iOverlander is free. And for boondocking, you want to select filters, informal campsite and wild. So this is the .com, this is the app again, informal campsite and wild camping. I also usually turn on campground because as you'll see in a sec, sometimes people um, just put the information in wrong. Okay, so here is iOverlander, and all of these are going to be at Alabama Hills, which is in the Eastern Sierras. I can guarantee you've seen pictures from Alabama Hills. It is kind of brown. I should have shown a picture, but it's like an ancient mountain at the foot of Mount Whitney, which is almost always, and so it's gorgeous. And there's Movie Road. There's been hundreds of movies filmed there. If you've seen Star Wars, you've seen Alabama Hills. Um, so is this is the .com, this is the app, and you can see it has the same information.
Which
And
one
all of
do you
these,
use the app, Joni?
I use both. I
You
like
use both?
computer because I travel with a computer and it's easier to see on the big screen. And then I'll go to the app to navigate. But all of these little deals are places that you can boondock. And then once you find one you like, you click the little icon thing and you'll get the details. And this will show you, this is again the website shows you the GPS coordinates. Always, always, always want to look at the latest check-ins because that will give you the most current information. It sometimes will give you additional directions, or it'll tell you reviews that people have had or whatnot. So definitely always look through the reviews. This is the same information on the app. So again, and the new, so if you've used iOverlander, what you had to do before was scroll all the way down to the bottom of all of the reviews to click to navigate. Now it's at the very beginning, click on the GPS coordinates and it will copy it to your clipboard. So that's where how you get there. Here is the elevation, which is really important, especially if you're trying temperatures. So the higher you go, the cooler it's going to be. And then, of course, the check-ins. Okay, so I'm going to show you where exactly I camped. So there were these 3 spots, and this one, it was the same as those. And this is why I was saying you do established campgrounds, because for some reason somebody marked that as an established campground. This is in an area where it's designated dispersed. Is you can't just boondock willy-nilly wherever because the area was overused. So BLM has done a lot of this in the areas that are most popular, where they will to free boondocking, I mean, just free for all boondocking, and have designated dispersed spots. So each spot has a little sign. I didn't take a picture of that, but each spot has, it says basically you can camp here. So there were 3 spots on this Hogback Creek Road. And here's the same 3 spots on Google Earth. So there's the one way over there, the one here, and this is the one that I stayed at right here. And you can kind of see like there's around, you can kind of see that there's like a fire ring right there. So that's what's really helpful with using, just to give you an idea of, and you can see this Hogback Creek right here, and this is where I stayed. And so here is, and in my spot with my back doors open to that Babbling Creek, with the snow-capped mountains in the background. So just really beautiful. I could not see, let's go back up to there. I could not see, there was somebody camped here, couldn't see them from my spot. So that's how far that was. So, okay, so freecampsites.net versus iOverlander. This is the same location. This is Alabama Hills. They have 1 spot. Look at all the spots that are on iOverlander. That's why I think iOverlander is much more useful. And so then I'm almost done with this section. I just want to show you how this works. So the spot that, so I was like right over here. Right next to the BLM was U.S. Forest Service land. And so there was, at little road was this little thing here that had a couple of spots. I went up to this one right here and I got so stuck. So if you are going down a road and get at all loose sand or anything sketchy at all, just get out and walk it and make sure that you can get it. But okay, so this website will show you of the U.S. Forest Service. And to be able to find the maps, the MVUM, the motor vehicle use maps, you have to, they don't make it easy. You have to first, I, I have to point with this, not my finger. You have to know what forest, and you have to know what ranger station or ranger district it is. So, so this was in the Inyo National Forest, and the map says Eastern Sierra Visitor Center. And this was actually the map, Inyo Southern Sierra, and I happen to know that it was the southernmost ranger district, a ranger station for that forest. So it takes, they don't make it easy, but this is a Ven, and this is that little spot there. And with a Venza, that little bull, that little thing right there will show you what the coordinate. And then this is that little section. This is the one I got stuck on. So this right here is for this right here. So that's where I got stuck. Okay, I'm gonna let's pause there. I want to get the events just so you can see some stuff, but let's see if you have questions so far, because I know that was a lot.
Yeah. So while you're typing in your questions, let me see if I can like summarize what I got out of it. So I think that the simplest way to start is with iOverlander, either on the
100%.
laptop, the website, or, on the phone. And Joni, that's what I found, both when I was going to courtside and I wanted a place to stay on the way, and also when I did my whole trip over to Florida and back. In the beginning, I could do a little boondocking, but once I got, I don't know, Texas, I was overnighting in places. But
100%.
iOverlander was very helpful because I could read the reviews. A lot of people leave photos, and it only sent me to, I got the knock once because it was in a parking lot of a casino, and there was a very specific casino parking lot that only you could park like legally there, and I couldn't tell, and it didn't have it in the app. But also, Joni, I got the app, the Dirt, DYRT, and it was free for like 2 weeks or something, and then you had to pay. And I compared it to iOverlander, and it had a fraction of the spots. And so I canceled it, and they reached out to me and said, "Why did you cancel?" And I said, "I just compared it to iOverlander. iOverlander is free. I had all these sites. You guys had, barely any. I'm not going to pay for that." So
Yeah, for sure. I agree. And your point of read the reviews on iOverlander, because people do put, I mean, it's so annoying when people will add a spot where they got away with overnighting somewhere once. It's like,
yeah,
dude, this legit spot.
yeah.
It's crazy. Okay, do we have questions?
Somebody, Barb wants to know about do you have Starlink?
I do.
Yep, she uses Starlink.
Mhm.
And free for unlimited states, the website. Do you know?
The website is free.
For yeah, any of them. It's just the app. And so the app is a bit of a hassle. Like when I was going over to Florida from Arizona, I had first I was looking in Texas, and I had all of Texas, and then I had to delete Texas to get like Louisiana or whatever the next state was. So it was a bit of a hassle, but still I didn't pay yet. I was using the whole free thing, and I could get every state I wanted. I just had to go delete the previous one because I could only have one at a time.
How much would you pay for unlimited for iOverlander? I'm just curious because I want to reach out to them and say, you know, this is too much. Going from free to $100 a year is too much.
Yeah. Well, if it was $5 a month, that would be $60 a year. $5 a month. I mean, I know that $97 or 99 or whatever, it's not $10 a month, but somehow my mind thinks it is. Like I think it's $10 a month.
Sure.
I know it's not. I don't know, like 49. I think they'd get a lot more sales
I
if they
do
did
too.
something like 49 or 47. Because that would be more of a no-brainer. It's like, yeah, I want to
Exactly.
support them. They're keeping this thing alive.
Exactly. I agree. Asking what to do if you get stuck in the backcountry, recovery gear. So I was able to, that spot that I showed you on Google Earth, it was like an incline in soft, soft sand. And I didn't have to get my shovel out. I carry Go treads, which doubles as levelers, and aired down my tires. And I put it in first gear, and I managed to get out. If I'd been able to get out, I would have walked to, because it's a popular area, so I would have just walked to, miles to the next person.
That just happened before May 1st, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was so proud of myself for getting myself out though.
Oh yeah, I'm proud of you. I think you were ingenious. First you use your go treads, is that what they're called? You let the air out of your tires, which is really smart. Not
Yep.
everybody would need to do that because they get a lot more traction
You get a
because
lot more
it's more
traction.
surface area,
Yep.
grippier.
Hmm.
You did it.
Yep. And first gear. The
First gear, that was, and so first gear, your Sprinter is not a manual,
no.
but there's still, you can put it in first, you can put it in gears other than
Yeah.
drive.
Yes.
Not every vehicle is going to have that ability.
Hmm. Are you sure? I think you can
Well,
gear down in
some of them
anything.
have a low gear, but I don't know if it would be equivalent to first gear, but nevertheless,
Yeah.
good to know those things. Okay, let's go
Yeah.
back to
So
questions.
Kimberly, do you know of sites to use in Canada? So a friend, so some friends of mine are the ones who created Campendium. They sold it to some company, Road Tripper, I don't remember. They sold it to a company a few years ago, and the company kind of ruined the app. But a friend of mine has made it her personal mission to make sure that every spot she knows about in Canada, because she is full-time in Canada in the summers, is on Campendium.
Huh.
So I would try to struggle through Campendium um, for Canada for sure, because Margot has done a really great job up there.
And so I like Heather's question. When you travel, do you plan your next stops or wing it as you go? And if you plan it, how do you do it?
I used to plan when I first start before I launched, I had like this whole route in southern Utah. Very excited about it. I still haven't done that whole route. 8 years later. Um, I I don't do a lot of I kind of plan like I'll wake up in the morning and be like, "Oh, I think I want to move today." And I'll figure out where I'm going. Or I'll plan the night before.
So, uh, let's say you're heading out, you don't know how far you're going to go. Like what time of day, what's the latest time of day you're going to pull over and open the iOverlander app and figure out where you're going to camp? Do you have a, like, this is the latest I'm going to wait till to plan?
Oh, it really depends on whether I've been there or not. If I have never been there, I would say I want to be there by 2, 3, 4 at the latest. If I've been there and I already know about it, I'm okay arriving at dark after dark in places that I know well. I also have photographic memory, so I don't get lost and I remember, where I've been. So um, that is not normal.
That's helpful.
Yeah, it is. I didn't put this in my slides, but I also use my Google Maps a lot and mark down things. Mark down places to stay, places that I like. I
What do you
have a
mean mark
list.
down? What do you mean by that?
So I save them and I put them in a list. So here's,
Okay.
I, I know that's not the greatest way to do that, but um, so hikes, potential camping, slot canyons. I have a friend of mine is going to be coming up the California coast, and so I marked a whole bunch of places for what I call the California coastal, all places to stay overnight as you're coming up the California coast. I also have a list that is Oregon heat escape. So when it gets hot in the valley in Oregon in the summer, I have spots that I know I can stay on the coast. So,
You just gain so much experience over,
yes.
you've been doing this for 8 years. And so it's great that you're keeping track of these things because, I mean, even with a photographic memory, you still might not, you can't remember everything.
Yeah, when I first started, I had people on the internet reach out to me and say, "Oh, if you're ever in this area, I've got a great driveway for you, or I've got a farm or whatever." And so I think I put them like in my contacts and did not put them on my map. And so I have no idea who those people are or where they are. So now when I meet someone and they say, "Come visit me, I've got this," I put them on my map and I put their contact information on my map so that when I'm looking, because that's what I do when planning is I'll open Google Maps and figure out where I want to go.
Yeah.
I'll either open Google Maps or iOverlander or both.
So Google Maps has a feature where you can add things and you can add like you have a little pin or something and you can put a note in it. I haven't used that.
Yes, that's
Oh,
a whole class on its own.
yes, it's a whole class on its own. I'm going to figure that out.
Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe we can do another bonus,
So, Joni, this is my understanding about Starlink. You can use Starlink anywhere. There's no cell service required. All you have to do is just use the app and orient your dish so that it's pointing the right direction. And
It
then
doesn't even,
get on the internet.
yeah, so the pointing in the right direction is old news now. The new dishes just stay almost completely flat. And just there's so many satellites. Starlink has so many satellites roaming around now that it just works. So I just have my dish mounted on my roof. Um, And I have a tip, just a tiny tip for aerodynamics, really, more than anything. Yeah.
Okay, great. And let's see. We've got some great questions here.
hmm
Uh,
So one of the things, your rig kind of needs to be ready for boondocking to be able to boondock. So you need to have enough power. You need to have enough water. You need to have enough capacity to store any waste. Um, and you need to be able to store the food. Um, I'm one of those weird people who loves to grocery shop. I love going into funky little co-ops and little markets and things. And so I'm always buying way too much food. So I have plenty of food. But yeah, you definitely don't want to have to be running into town, unless I am right now. My solar is not working, and so I need to drive to keep my batteries charged. Um, how do you feel about having and dumping black tanks? I don't have a black tank. So I have a 40-gallon fresh water tank, which is insanely huge. And I have a 15-gallon gray tank. And it takes me about 4 months to need to dump my gray tank. So, um, yeah, and then I have, oh, you can see Natalie's video of my van on her channel. I use pee bottles for peeing, which makes it super easy because then I just pour them out. And I have a little mop bucket under a toilet seat for poo. And And I just tip that into a vault toilet because it's just toilet paper and poop. Um, now if you don't have, so you can also boondock if you're more of an experienced camper, and you follow the leave no trace principle. So leave lnt.org has all the principles, 7 principles of leave no trace. One of the things that is important um, with leaving, you know how we have the adage, leave a place better than you found it? With boondocking and natural places, that means that you leave a place so that you can't tell a human was there. So you don't leave objects and call it art. You don't rearrange the rocks to make it look, like an outline or anything. You leave it natural. Yes, leave no trace, absolutely.
I love
Um,
what Melanie said. I want to read this out loud so that the people who are like watching the
I
replay.
love it.
Melanie says, I just joined a Boondockers Facebook group and I'm already frustrated by all the know-it-all men giving out BS info. I've learned more from Joni in these few minutes. I can picture, I can just imagine all the stuff they're
Highly,
getting in there.
highly recommend leaving those groups. Those men are just insufferable. They're awful.
Uh,
So Natalie has her group. I have Gal Adventurers, which is more of an educational group. And then I'm also one of the moderators on Van Life Women Only. And that has been a really active group of really wonderful women for the most part. I mean, we work pretty hard. The other moderator and I work really hard in that group because we're getting like, I mean, every half hour there's another 20 women trying to get in, so it's really active. But Van Life Women only, not Van Life Women. Van Life Women is moderated by men. Van Life Women only is only women.
that's hilarious.
It is ridiculous, honestly. Yeah.
Oh, this is so terrific. So,
You don't have to have a van, no.
generally you don't, like a lot of people in this group and in many groups, we're just like learning. They're in the learning process and they don't necessarily have the vehicle yet, and that's perfectly fine. Okay,
How to monitor the weather, that is kind of a whole other class. I mean, other than just looking at weather apps are not very, yeah, it's a Facebook group. The Van Life Women Only is a Facebook group. Um, but weather app be wildly inaccurate, but they're the best we have. So, um, let me show you a little bit more about Avenza, just because it is something that I used when I first started. If you're not finding what you like on iOverlander or everything's full, okay? So, because everyone's using iOverlander, the spots on there can be, but generally there are more spots in that area. And so let's show you how, where am I? Maybe here it is. Okay, so the downside to Avenza is that you do have to download each separate little MUM by forest and by ranger district. So, but it will show you which map you're on. So right now, currently, I am on map on the Siuslaw National Forest Central Coast. And so this is that part of that map. Um, when I when I first started, this was one of the first places that I tried to find a place to boondock. And oh, real quick, it's important to know that if you go to a ranger's office to ask about boondocking, it's not boondocking, that's not their parlance. They call it dispersed camping. And so these little dots along this road on the motor vehicle use map is where you could find where you can disperse camp. dispersed camping also includes backpacking. So just know when you talk to a ranger, you need to let them know what big is. So when I was new, I found a spot maybe right around here um, that looked okay. I got myself leveled out, just kind of moving my van around the spot, get out, and there were shotgun shells everywhere. And that sketched me out. And so I, there was a, so I moved on and I found a horse camp. And just to let you know, um, it's okay. There's nobody handing out awards to be perfect boondocker. It's really okay to give up and go find a campsite. It's okay. In the national forest, if the campgrounds are full, usually there's spots at a horse camp. Horse camps are usually around $11 to $15 a night. Um, it's just a spot with a fire ring, maybe a table, and a corral, just in case you have livestock that you're traveling with. And they'll have a a vault toilet there. Uh, okay, so that was kind of what I wanted to show you about that. Now let me just show you. So the U.S. public lands, going back to where I was showing you before with the Hogback Creek, and um, here's the spots where I got stuck on the forest, and this is all BLM. So you just have to know the colors. The yellow is BLM, the green is Forest Service. So that's what I use to make sure I know that I'm on public lands. Another way to do that is Onyx Backcountry. They run a lot of sales a lot of times, which is why I'm trying it out. I think it's like $13. They're running us right now for like $13 a year. And so again, we'll just show you, and you can actually tap on it and it will show you what public land it is. So that is a nice, it's more for hiking and off-roading, but it is a pretty nice app and not as expensive as a lot of them.
What's the app called, Joni?
Onyx Backcountry.
So it's actually ONX Backcountry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. And that was what I wanted to show you about just being able to know where you are because you are required to know.
All right. Are you good, Joni? Can we pop folks into breakout rooms now?
We can. I do if let's see, let me just make sure.
If you have more info to share, go ahead and do that.
I do so I do have some nomad etiquette that's specific to boondocking
Oh, that's
if
great.
you want that.
Yeah.
Okay. It could also just be like a handout that you give later if you want, because I have it all written out. So
How
whatever
about
you prefer.
both?
Okay. All right. So we already mentioned don't park right next to another nomad. Respect the personal space. Um, so the kind of rule of thumb is park within waving distance, but no closer than 10 yards without express interest. And 10 yards is still pretty close. Um, just because someone's door is open doesn't mean they want company. So say hi from a distance to see if they want to chat. Don't just come and sit outside the rig and talk at them. Um, sharing food and drinks isn't expected with nomads. Most nomads do provide their own food. If you are camping with other people, contribute to wood for the shared campfire if you're having fires. Do not ever bring campfire wood from another area because you could be transporting um, pests into that area. If you do have a fire, make sure it's completely out before you go to bed or before you leave. And if you're really in a legit spot and there is no fire ring and you create a fire ring, make sure you disassemble that fire ring before you leave. Nomads generally, a, a lot of nomads don't say goodbye. They'll just get up and leave in the morning. So don't read too much into that. Um, Nomads also talk about pee and poo a lot. And if you're boondocking and you don't have your own toilet facilities, or if you do, but you want to extend them, the lnt.org, leavenotrace.org website does talk about exactly like how and where to do a cat hole. And never ever leave toilet paper ever anywhere. Always bring your toilet paper with you. You use toilet paper, bring it. Don't leave it in the cat hole. Don't leave it out on public, and just don't. Um, all right. Also that applies to your dog too. Leave no trace, includes your pets. If you're on a hike, you bag your pet waste. Don't leave it on the side of the trail to pick up later, because I was on a short hike up at Mount Lemmon, and I picked up 10 bags of dog poop. It's better just to leave the dog poop than to put it in a plastic bag and leave it on the trail. Um, and if you use a generator and you're parking with other people, park away from them, especially people who have solar, and check with them first before you turn it on. I cannot tell you how much the attitude is so different when someone just turns on a generator and you have no idea how long they're going to run it, versus someone saying, hey, I need to run my generator for about an hour. Is that okay? The attitude is just so different. When you're camping with people, try to be sensitive when you're parking so that you don't block your neighbor's view. A lot of these places are so picturesque, and you don't want to cut off the view. Make sure that if you're listening to music or a video or anything, that can't be heard outside your rig. Don't assume that your neighbors like your music or want to hear it. Nomads generally don't spend the entire day together. People will usually get together for a campfire, a dog walk, a sunset. So it's more about mutual support and safety. It's not a marriage. So maintain your autonomy while camping with others. Don't really to entertain you. And remember that a lot of nomads are introverts and really like their time alone. And last thing an introvert wants is a stage 4 clinger who doesn't take a hit. So a hint, sorry. Um, so, if they're avoiding contact, turning away, backing up, limited conversation responses, all that is cue that they're maybe not so into talking to you.
That's a great
All right,
list.
that's a negative point to leave this on. Boondocking is amazing. Camping with friends is amazing. Camping with other women, badass women, is just the world. I mean, it is just the best thing ever.
Well, thank you so much. So before we go into breakouts, please share an acknowledgement in the chat for Joni, something specific that you want to acknowledge her for. And so I will share mine verbally while you guys type one in the chat. Joni, I really appreciate the fact that you started doing this a lot of years before it became anywhere near as popular as it is now. And I think that took a lot of courage. You were a trailblazer, literally and figuratively. And I love the way you have learned so many things. And I just so appreciate the way you are clear and articulate and step by step in your teaching of it. I always enjoy learning from you, and I just appreciate that so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.